Lindenhurst is a village of 27,000 on the south shore of Long Island, New York. These are the people who grew up there and their stories. Everyone I know is from Lindenhurst. Are you going to be upstate this weekend?
No, I won't be back upstate till the 15th. That's my next time. So I go when I can get 2 days off in a row.
Right.
And then now it's hunting season, so like I have a few vacation days all planned, and I'm gonna for longer trips between now and December. Like basically every other week I'll go for a good trip clip. I'm watching weather, I'm watching temperatures, I'm doing all that because all that plays a role on things.
Right. So when it starts to snow up there, does it start to feel like The Shining a little bit?
It's like it doesn't feel like The Shining when the snow starts. It's in April when the snow is still going that It's like, what the fuck? Like, because I'll come home to Babylon, t-shirt weather, right. And then I go back up there and I'm like, it's fucking 8 degrees here. What is going on? It's April. And like this year, all my apple trees in May bloomed flowers. So all the flowers should turn into apples. Nope. Blast the snow and cold weather. And that's it. Lost all the apples. Have no apples this year because of that. Which kind of
how do you like them apples, huh?
Seriously.
No apples make Nick a dull boy.
That's right.
Cool. So your family goes back a bit in Lindenhurst, right?
Yeah, my mom's born here. Her whole family, they live on 40th Street up there. Well, they did. I mean, they don't anymore, but that's where they lived. And my grandfather moved from Brooklyn to Long Island, and everyone was like, "Why are you going out to farm country?" And apparently, there's only like 3 or 4 houses on his block when he got here.
Wow, what year was that?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know. But I mean,
or what decade?
He lived to 92, so I mean, if he moved out here when he was 20, I mean, that had to be 70 years ago. So do that math. I guess 50s.
Yeah.
Wow. So so your parents, how did they get together, and how did it end up with your house where you grew up?
So good question. I actually don't know how my mom and dad met, but they met really young. They met at like 16, 17. My mom was kind of like an established worker, and my dad was doing odd jobs and this and that. And then my grandfather helped my dad get on the railroad, and that's where he spent his his whole career on that. He tried doing the police thing for a little bit, but then we had to go down to Virginia, and that didn't work out because he was too far away from my family and my mom and stuff. So we came back, did the railroad officially, and then they bought a house on North 5th Street, and that's where I started to grow up, in Lindenhurst on North 5th Street, and I was there till about 86.
Yeah, and then came the house down by the water.
Yeah. So when we were 6 years old, my mom and dad were already starting to fight like cats and dogs, and they thought buying a new house would be a great way to lower stress and help their situation out. So we moved down by the water, down by Chateau Lemire, like right off of Wellwood, way south. Like think of, we were called the Bay Rats. That was like what they called that anyone who lived in my area of Lindenhurst. And that was because that's the fire department's like logo engine name, the Bay Rats. So everyone lived down there was a Bay Rat.
So that's off of Shore Road, like by the park over there?
Yep. So Wellwood to Shore. And then you would go down and right before Shore Road is where I lived on South Bay Street.
Okay. Named the titular bay.
Yeah, south right after our bay. And crazy, and Sandy came, and like most of the houses on that block, including the one I grew up in, aren't there. It's just gone. It's just all lots, like empty lots.
It's comical to see how high some people have raised their houses just to be like, fuck it, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a couple that are still trying, they're hanging on.
It's like I live in a 5-story walk up now just to have a 1-story house that's raised 4 stories. It's so bizarre. I don't know why you'd want to do that.
Here in Long Beach, you see it all over,
Yeah. Is that where you live these days, John? Long Beach?
No, I'm still in Lindenhurst, but I'm just saying, like those both very affected by Sandy,
Yeah. The house I lived in Massapequa too, which was right on the bay, where I lived for a while with Breezy. They got demolished in Sandy, and they rebuilt it for some reason.
Yeah, that's literally the last house on the block, like right, on the water there.
On the water, yeah.
That's why when I bought my house, I was like, no way am I moving south of Montauk. I've lived through like Sandy with my mom, but even growing up,
yeah, no, there was a streak. We had like Hugo, Bob, and Gloria, all that shit.
Yeah,
we got rocked.
I definitely trick or treated by blow up raft, like Zodiac raft, somewhere in the 95, 92, 3 range.
Yeah,
like because there was that much water down by my house, and crazy. And my mom like never even contemplated moving, and then Sandy came, and it was like second story worth of choice. Yep.
So getting back to that move there, is that a change in elementary schools? Did you go to West Gates and then you went to Bauer?
Yeah, so not West Gates. When I was in North Fifth Street, I was at
North Fifth Street. I'm sorry, that's Albany.
Albany Avenue. Yeah,
gotcha.
Albany Avenue. And what's so crazy is I had Miss Frederickson in first grade, Mrs. MacArthur. Miss Frederickson for kindergarten, Mrs. MacArthur for first grade, and then we moved. And I cannot tell you who I had for second grade. It is gone. Like it is just not there. And then third grade was Mrs. Dennis in Bauer. That I know for sure. So I think because I was in transit between two houses in second grade, I can't really tell you who I had or anything.
You lost a year there.
Yeah, totally did. Must have not been good.
So right at the end of my block, you were going to elementary school, way before I knew you.
Yeah. Pretty much everything I touched in Lindenhurst doesn't exist anymore. It's pretty wild. My house ain't there. My first job ain't there anymore. Yeah. Like it's all gone.
What was your first job?
I was a waiter at the Knights of Columbus when I was 12 years old on bingo nights, me and Justin Bell.
Right next door to where I grew up.
Yeah, right, really right next door to you. And they had like a smoking room in there. And
oh boy.
That they made the little room the smoking room, and it never made sense. You would walk into that room and the wall of smoke would hit you like it was thick.
Yeah, and it was like partially carpeted in there too, so
it was gross.
The smell didn't go away.
Gross, man. These kids today have no idea what it's like to have rooms just packed full of smoke.
Yeah.
Lucky them. Jeez. Okay, so I mean we're jumping ahead in time there, but
I'm sorry.
So yeah, no, it's cool. It's what happens. So Bauer Elementary School and then Lindenhurst Middle School, which was the junior high at the time, quote unquote.
Yeah.
We didn't call it middle school.
So I was one of the first classes that got pulled out of having my 5th or 6th grade experience. No, 6th grade experience. And I had to start middle school in 6th grade as opposed to finishing 6th grade at Bauer. So that was like a new thing. I don't know, when you guys are a little younger than me, you went 6th grade in middle school, right?
Right. So I want to say that it was the year before you, which is Vito's age and my sister's age as well, was the first year that 6th grade was in there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So high school graduating class of 99 was the first year of kids to have their 6th grade in the middle school.
Okay. Yeah. So
write us in and correct us if we're wrong. But
all right.
Right.
I got cut off of senior elementary school safety patrol because we weren't going to be the graduating class. I know. I wanted that orange sash so bad.
Yeah. It's funny. Jared Dowd was my bus's safety patroller in 4th and 5th grade or 4th grade.
Oh yeah.
So shout out to Jared Dowd. Yeah, he kept me safe.
Hey, I got a question. Are you guys? This is like I know we're on video. Is there video being uploaded for this somewhere, or is this all just audio?
It's just going to be audio.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
just wondering.
That's cool. So, like extracurriculars, what were you getting into? Sports or?
So I was part of a family that my dad insisted I played at least one sport. So I was playing Little League baseball from a very young age. Probably
American or National Little League?
So I want to say it was the national because I started when I was on North Fifth Street and I stayed in that league. Does that sound right to you guys?
Did you play at Town Hall or did you play
Yes,
at
Town Hall?
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's American Little League. National League plays at like Fireman's Park and Southland and her stuff.
No, never. No, I played American then. That was my league, and I did that all the way until 7th grade.
Okay.
I never really was into baseball. My brother really went to sports, enjoyed them. It never really was my thing, even at a young age. I did like swimming. I did swimming a little bit, and that was through the Lyndhurst High School. That was the pool, which is like the crazy UFO looking pool. I don't think any other school. Yeah. What is it?
The Technodrome, like the Ninja Turtle thing, you know?
Yeah, it's like unlike any other school. No other school has this big dome that you just see driving up to it. And I did that for a while. I was really good at swimming. And somewhere along the way, my dad was like, swimming is not even a sport. And I was like, fine, it's not a sport. I won't do it. I'm not really all that hung up on sports. And then the other sport, which is like the claim to my family, is like when I was 8 and my brother was 6, we started wrestling. Lindenhurst kid wrestling program with the like immortal Rick Brodemerkel. Like, I don't know if you guys didn't do really sports or wrestling. There's like a ton of Brodemerkels from Lindenhurst.
Yeah.
There's like 13 of them. They all wrestle.
He was my gym coach in what do you call it? Like junior 9th grade, whatever. Yeah.
That was Paul. That's the junior high wrestling coach. So I started with his brother Rick, and then I moved on to junior high, his brother Paul. And then in the summer, we would do wrestling camp with his brother Ken. It was like they were all crazy, amazing wrestlers. Like, what a family. And you jump forward years later, I'm doing things in the medical community, and I'm going to try to be like as patient confidential, but I run into someone in their family and I'm like, are you part of the Brodemer? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I know your whole family.
Yeah.
And this was a younger person, and they were like, oh my God. They're like, whenever I drop my name, all the wrestlers are like, holy crap, we know uncles and cousins and brothers. I'm like, yeah, big family. And I did that all the way to college wrestling. And I stopped in my senior year. I did not wrestle in her senior year because I really had fell in love with hardcore at that point. And I had a bad hazing thing in high school wrestling early on. And I didn't like that it was almost coming around where it was like, well, now it's going to be your turn to be hazing. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Plus my dad had been like, you'll be 18. You don't have to do any sport you don't want to do when you turn 18. So again, I was like, oh, if I don't have to play sports, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I was like so in love with doing music at that point. So I was
hardcore was a little less macho for you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So getting into junior high and high school, you start to discover the local scene. Really, really good local scene going on at that time. A lot of bands playing, a lot of shows going on.
Where do you discover that?
Yeah. So I'm having this kind of like parents are fighting cats and dogs, terrible divorce. So it's like just your standard Long Island broken family. We're in like junior high ages. So this is like 92, 93-ish. Don't really fit in junior high. I don't know anyone from Lindenhurst who just like, junior high was the time of my life.
No, everyone fucking hated it.
It's just not a great conducive place for things. So then I get to high school and I'm still kind of like socially awkward. I'm trying to be this pseudo wrestling jock. I just don't fit in with anybody. And I just feel like I'm being picked on at school by random jock bully people that I'm trying to fit in with, which is really super bizarre. I can't connect with anyone I'm trying to fit in there. And then I go home, my mom and dad, they're not even together anymore, but they're still fighting. My mom's pissed when I see her. She's screaming at me. My dad's pissed, screaming at me. And I have this like middle of 9th grade taxi cab-esque, well, F everybody. And I shave my head into a mohawk. And I'm like, I'm just going to start doing whatever I want to do. And at that point, I had like been listening to, heavy metal for the most part at that point. So like, I don't know. And then like, kind of was into this pseudo punk phase thing. And I remember like, all right, so I'm shaving my head like this punk rocker, and I'm going to just like throw my middle fingers up like all these punk rockers. And I'm going to try to like get out there and do this whole like punk thing. And I started going to some local shows, like ska punk kind of combo smash ups. And went to some bigger act shows, like not even punk, like just started hitting the Nassau Coliseum or anything that was heavy. And I'm like, I'm going to just be this alternative culture. And which is kind of weird because like at this time in Lindenhurst, this was what you would call the freak. You were like, oh, you're going to be part of the freaks. And like, all right, well, I'm going to be part of this freak culture because I'm like done with everybody. And I remember I went through a few punk shows and like these kids were all drinking and doing drugs and I never really fit into that. That was really never my thing. As much as I was saying F everybody and I'm going to shave a mohawk and dress bizarre and like do whatever I want to do, that still wasn't me. And I remember Chris Baldwin, who was either in 11th grade at this time or like, because I'm a freshman now. This is like the middle end of my freshman year. And now I'm outcasted by everybody. I am literally like, I have no crowd. I have nobody that wants to, like, nobody knows what I'm doing. I'm like I probably this day and age would be like pulled out for like gonna blow up the school kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And Chris is like, hey, I have a band, come check it out. And this was Glassjaw. So we're like in that 93, 94 time range. And I went to see a show at like a VFW in Long Island. And I distinctly remember walking in and I have like my hat on over my shaved mohawk because I'm trying to like low key walk into like this weird, I don't know what I'm walking into. And it was Glassjaw, Motive, Silent Majority, Tripface. And Ionia Lightfoot was the other.
Was that in Belmore?
Yeah, I'm thinking I was gonna say Belmore or Seaford, but it's Belmore sounds right.
Belmore VFW. I was at that show.
And I walked.
I think Indecision played that show as well.
They might have.
Yeah.
It was like probably like one of the greatest first shows you could ever hope to walk in as like a kid.
Yeah.
Looking to find something to like grasp onto. And it was like instantly like, oh my God, whatever I gotta do, I'm doing this. Like, and that was the first big instance of straight edge I seen. And I was like, holy crap. This is like a real thing. Like kids really, and that to me, I instantly was like, that's me. I'm ready to like not drink, not do drugs, but I am going to mess kids up every turn I can. Like, I'm like, I have the spot. I'm looking to throw all my like pseudo athleticism, pseudo anger, pseudo like outcastness. And it was amazing. It was just absolutely amazing. And Motive distinctly like blew my mind. That was the band act that was like, what is this? This is sick. I absolutely was like, oh my God. And like, I kind of went there with just two other kids I knew from high school, like who were kind of friends with me, who really wasn't even their thing to go. I had kind of been like, hey, let's check this out. And like, all right, we'll check it out. Yeah, I know Baldwin. We'll go. We'll check this out. And like, I knew instantly that was going to be, when is the next one? When am I coming back to this? Yeah. Like it didn't matter. And straight edge was like super awesome. And I never adopted it. And just kind of cut forward is even like 20 years later, because I never really drank and did drugs. It's never, ever been my thing, but I never declared straight edge. Kids are always like, I thought you were straight edge. Yeah. Like, no, because I was one of these kids early on who saw this like Long Island militant straight edge scene that like, if you're going to do it, committed for life, you know, like that's it.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts. Don't fly flags.
And when you're a teenager, it's just extremes.
And I was kind of like, I don't know if I could fly this flag forever. So I'm not going to like to X up and claim that I'm going to do this forever. I actually did what you would want not straight edge people to do. Like,
yeah.
So, but whatever. That's that was my first show.
Well, my first memory of you, actually, I think it was outside of a Step Lively show at Dr. Shea's.
I went to a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah. You rolled up on your bike, I remember, and you had the mohawk, and I think like a backwards visor on.
Yeah, that was my jam. I absolutely loved a visor because I love hats. I mean, as you see, I have a hat on now. I always wear a hat, but that was like I could wear a hat and still
have a mohawk. Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe like camo pants and like a wife beater. Does
So
that sound right?
yeah, man. So even when I was like in this pseudo punk thing, camo has always been a major part of my life.
Sure.
Always like the youngest
Still,
pictures of
yeah.
me. Yeah, you will see me in camo
Mhm.
hats and camo pants. And the fact that at that same show, half that crowd's wearing camo pants and a black t-shirt. Like I was like, oh my fucking God.
I'm
I don't know.
home. Yeah.
Am I allowed to curse? Was I not supposed to
Yeah.
Yeah.
curse?
No, you're fine. Yeah.
All right. Oh,
It's all good.
oh my God. Like they're even dressed like how I want to dress here. Like it was
Yeah.
just like
But I remember when I
fascinating.
first saw you, I thought, wow, if there's a missing link between a punk and a hardcore kid,
It's
this
this
is the guy right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I mean, I was really heavy into like Rancid. Like that was like
Yeah.
Rancid, No Effects was just like my jam in the punk rock scene. Like, and I like I said, I dabbled in ska, dabbled in punk, and it just it didn't. It was fun. It was awesome, but it didn't click like the way hardcore did for me. It was just like walked into that, and I was like, oh my God, here's my whole life. This is what I'm gonna do forever. Like, just
Yeah.
it felt that way.
So to give you context on the first time I remember seeing you, which is before I really even knew who you were, the last day of 8th grade for me, which would have been the last day of 11th grade for you.
No way,
There,
really.
yes, there was a ska show, but the first show I ever went to, First Church in Huntington. It was Channel 59. The scoff was Edna's Goldfish and Checkerboard Charlie's last show.
Oh yeah, I
And
was there. I was.
You were
definitely
there. You were
Oh,
there
yeah.
with Stefan and Sherman.
Yeah.
And something happened where someone who might have been with you guys put pepper spray in a window or something, and everybody had to leave the venue. Do you remember this at all?
So the pepper spray I think was mine, and I think
Gotcha.
it was Stefan's. I think Stefan sprayed the pepper spray, but it wasn't with intent to cause any problem. If I remember correctly,
I don't understand how that could be, but
it blew
Ah,
back. It blew
gotcha.
back into things, and like because
right. There were fans in all the windows, so then it went into the venue, and everyone had to evacuate the venue.
yes, yeah.
But
So
I had known who Derek was, and I was like, oh, those guys are from Lindenhurst with the people I know. And then we were like, oh, I think those guys from Lindenhurst, just fucked everyone up.
Yeah.
You guys were also like dressed to the nines, you know what I mean? Like full ska regalia, fucking suited out and
So
smoking cloves, maybe. Derek and Stefan were.
without a doubt. So I
Yeah.
mean, still to this day, I mean, I to put a costume on is like so much fun for me.
Of course.
And we would go to me and Stefan particularly. So like I am into hardcore at this point, but I still going to these punk and ska shows. And if we went to a ska show, man, we like fedoras, shirts, like we looked like
give an Italian an excuse to dress up.
Oh my God.
That's it, baby.
Oh my God. And, yeah. And Derek was right along there with us for a while. Like Derek was finding himself too at that point. Derek
His
went through a lot of,
ruby studded toothpicks, if you remember those.
ruby studded tooth. What?
He had
No.
little toothpick holder things that, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Sherman will have. If you get Sherman on, he goes through a great little Lindenhurst transition, man.
Yeah.
I got some good pictures of him, man.
So you're hanging out. We get to know you now, and you start singing in a band. Negative Influence.
Yeah.
Was that your first band ever?
That was my first band ever. Yeah.
Okay. What was that experience like?
How does that come about?
So actually, I'm gonna regress. No, I was asked to be in a band with Jeff Citron and Matt Citrone and like Brendan playing drums for like 2 seconds, and they thought it would be a great idea because I liked the bass that I shall play bass, and I'm like, well, I eventually one day would like to learn how to play this instrument, but I don't know how to play it now. And they were like, no, we'll just show you. You follow along with us. It'll be easy. And I was in the Fitzgerald's basement. And actually, you know what? I'm going to back up even a step further because now I just brought the Fitzgeralds up. I have to say, so I'm trying to find hardcore. I've been to the show. I absolutely love it. But I think meeting the Fitzgeralds laid a super foundation to where I would find a place in hardcore. Without them, I don't know if that would happen. And like Hugo, I mean, this is not a slam on Hugo. I think everybody knows he's a tad bit socially awkward. So befriending Hugo was definitely not an easy feat. It was like, oh my God, like this guy, he goes to shows too. You see him around high school. He was a little older than me by a year. So of course, because he's older, I assume he's like the coolest guy. He's got to be the scene. Like he has to be the scene. I have to figure out how to hang out with this dude.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the scene, but he was like part of the scene. And like we kind of hit it off. I still not sure exactly what the cement was between us, but we hit it off. I hit it off with Chris and Brendan, and they would ask me to hang out at their house. So like anything that was flying the flag hardcore, I wanted to be a part of. So now I'm going to their house. I'm watching their band Swamp Ass play. Brendan's doing also stuff. Mike the Goon Jack alone is singing in that. He's this big goony kid. They got shaved heads. They're flying skinhead suspenders and stuff. I don't even know what I'm looking at. And again, I'm like, these kids are nuts. I absolutely love these kids. I need to be here for this.
Yep.
So I started doing that. And then so many kids in Lindenhurst found their way to that house and were dabbling with music. So there was a turn that this Brendan drums, Matt Citrone guitar, Jeff Citrone guitar, and someone was singing. I'm not even sure. And they're like, you're going to play bass. So I did that twice. And I think some of the kids from Negative Influence were there, like Pat, maybe Chris Schaefer, maybe Olos, Mike Michaelos. And after that, they were like, hey, it's not working out with me and us and Schaefer. And we're thinking about bringing you in. And I was like, oh, I'm psyched on that idea. I really want to be in a band. And I don't think an instrument is really where I want to be. I want to sing because I know I can scream. I know I can be entertaining, and I have zero stage fright. So like,
Yep.
Let's make this happen. And that was my journey into Negative Influence there, which has to be 95.
Yeah, 95, 96.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a good time. I mean, it was a lot of learning. Like I definitely jumped into music with zero background of music, like none. Had never been even a thought. The closest thing to music for me was I got pulled out of class in 4th grade, and I tested very musically, and they wanted to put me in violin, and violin sounded terrible. I was like, no, but that was a Lindenhurst thing. Like, I think that was the only option they were offering in Bauer was to learn violin. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna go that route.
What was the testing like?
I don't know. I actually have no idea how, like, knock on the door, the music teacher, who is, I want to say Miss Costa, which was like, hey, you took some tests and you scored very musically. We're thinking about.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
So to give that more context, I remember in elementary school, like they did the same thing. Like I can't remember the parameters of the test, but like they tested you for chorus to see if you could sing it all. And it felt like every kid was either playing an instrument or got in the chorus. But I was one of the like 2.5 kids that didn't do that. So when all the kids went to band, like we sat alone and did nothing for 40 minutes, you know?
Yeah. So I was one of those kids too, John. I hated chorus. I hated it. I hated standing there
Children
and
left
singing.
behind.
Yeah. So I opted to do dittos in the classroom by myself instead of going to chorus.
Yeah. So moving on into high school now, you're out, you're playing shows. We're playing Dr. Shays and Crawdaddies. And
who is in Negative Influence again?
This was Pat Garrity, Mike Michaelos, Phil Coiro, and I had replaced Chris Schaefer.
Right.
So, it seemed like it was like Chris didn't want to do it anymore. They're going to bring me in. That's really not the case. I think they hacked him out and were like, hey, we have Nick. And there, I didn't know that was kind of, but that's what I felt had happened after I was like in and like got a sense from Chris that that's what took place. And I was like, oh man, but I guess I was a little selfish and I wasn't like, well, I'm quitting now because I don't want to be part of some sort of drama. I was like, no, I really want to do this. So I stayed the course,
I'm ready. We're going to take this to the next level.
Yeah, like I'm in.
Well, we sort of did, because then Negative Influence evolved into Foreshadow.
Yes.
Which I was the drummer in.
Yes. So
what is the fundamental difference there?
So what happened
besides of obviously Vito?
Here's what the fundamental difference is. So we started out as me, replacing Chris, Mike Michaelos, Pat Garrity, and Phil Cora, if I didn't say it, Phil Cora on drums. And then Pat Garrity quit. And we brought in Eric Zukowski was the bassist in Negative Influence. How could I forget Zukowski? Oh my God. Sorry, Eric, if you listen to this. So he had left first, Zukowski. Okay. We got James in. And then Zukowski, Olos, and Greg Cook were just like, they love to do things together. So once one fell out, they started like dropping like flies. So we picked up James. We picked up Sherman. Right. And Coiro wasn't quite working out. Like he was like this hockey prodigy, and he had a lot of that going on. So he was like kind of like making us, I feel like, second choice. I mean, also I'm being very honest. I hope I'm not pissing people off if you listen to this, guys. I love all of you guys. And this is just my recant of what happened 20 years ago. So
but also these people are 16, 17 when this is going on. So
yes, we're terribly young. And so again, it was like, well, hey, James was like, hey, I know a great drummer, Vito. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, and I'm even at this age, I'm like, I don't really want to just be this band of revolving members. I don't know how I feel about this. Let's give Phil a little bit more of a shot and whatnot. I think like the next practice we were practicing, and like Phil was just like, I'm done. And like literally like every guitar amp, everything about the PA, lights, everything was plugged into one power strip in the corner of his room. And he's like, I'm done. And he walked over and he pulled this out, and like the whole room went dark, and everyone just looked at each other and was like, nah, yeah, he's done. We're out of here. We're done. We're done with this garbage.
Literally pulled the plug on it.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And then that's how we got Vito in the band. But I felt like I have met you, Vito, before then. At shows and stuff. So it wasn't like,
we were playing.
Who's this guy, already. Vito? Yeah. But John, I'm not actually sure how and when I could officially say we met and like I remember meeting you. I just feel like
I want to say when I was in 9th grade, I went to a show at Deja One with Chris and Nolan that also you and Stefan were at, and it's where that picture of all of us were taken. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, of course.
So that's coming up this month on the 25th anniversary of that picture, which is insane.
That's so wild, man.
But that is definitely the first point I could pinpoint, like, an actual exchange, like, hey, I'm John. I'm the,
Okay. Yeah.
Step definitely. Lively Blue Beach show right around Halloween 97.
Wow, man. That's awesome. Yeah. Those Deja One shows were like, just so amazing. There's been nothing. I don't think there's anything been kind of close. That's like, for me, I guess that was my PWAC, because I had came in just the last few years of what was like Long Island's renowned home hardcore home stadium, let's just say, the PWAC. Like people talk about it. And I had been there and I had been to a bunch of shows, but I wasn't really where I felt like I was a part of the scene. I was a part of music. I was a part of that. I was what I felt like
everyone was too old who was involved in that.
Yes.
Do you agree with people say that no matter when you get into a scene, it was always better just before you got into it?
No,
everybody just missed the cool shit.
Yeah, I guess I really loved all the time I was part of everything.
No, same. That's about when I started, going to shows and stuff too, or in that same cycle. I think that summer, or they might have started having shows at the Lindenhurst Civic Center that same year.
Oh yeah, those are some good shows there too.
Post PWAC,
yeah.
Well, we got to play Deja eventually with
we played with Drag Body and Kill Your Idols. We were Foreshadow. Yeah,
two-man advantage. It was a weird show.
2-man advantage.
Sick.
Yeah.
So I locked up. I have the keychain from that show still. The 2-man advantage bottle opener keychain from that show.
I remember. So Deja One had this big like handicap ramp that went from one entrance to the other.
It zigzagged. Yeah, like it went up.
And I remember like going into the bottom entrance, and I turned around, and the singer from 2-man is in full hockey gear.
With his mask
and
on.
Makeup running at me full speed. Because he was about to go on stage. And I was like, what?
They were a band. If you were not, well, they still are, man. If you're not ready for not ready for that experience, it's awesome.
I had never seen them before, and like here comes this guy who looks like Gene Simmons on roids.
Yeah,
Like,
running at me full speid. I was like, what's going on?
Bam Bam
he's like,
Bigelow.
he's hairy. Yeah, Harry Bam Bam Bigelow. Yeah, like, just like I wish they were more successful because they're just
super fun band. Yeah.
You're still kicking, you know.
Oh, I know. So funny 2-man story. I'm playing in my Misfits cover band, me and Eddie White, and we're playing the Crazy Donkey, and the 2-minute advantage is on. Did I say? Well, maybe it was. We weren't playing there that night. I was during my Misfit cover age. Me and Eddie White went to go see a show, and 2-minute advantage is on. No, we were definitely playing because we were coming up, and 2-minute played before us. And we were out in the crowd, and these kids were like, they're like, "Is this the 2-minute advantage?" And it was like what amounted to like an emo band. I can't tell you who was playing, and me and Eddie White looked like at each other, and we were like, no. And then I looked at Eddie and I was like, if you have to ask if this is the 2-minute advantage, you clearly have no idea who they are or what they look like at all.
Yeah. And you might get beer on you.
Right.
Yeah.
If none of the songs are about hockey, it's definitely not 2-minute.
No.
First sign.
So high school goes on and, Foreshadow kind of dissolves. So your senior year of high school, you did a thing called the Dowling program?
Yes, I did. The Dowling early college experience. And you have to it's kind of like AP for all-stars. I don't know, like they had AP, but you also had this program where you could, like, if you tested that you were smart enough or brilliant or whatever, I don't know, whatever it was, you could sign into this program. It wasn't free though. You had to pay. No, it was like,
but it was it cost you less to get college credits than it would essentially if you were in school the next year, right?
Significantly less. And the idea was that it was going to roll into college and like you were going to be able to like
you're a year ahead essentially. Yeah,
which sounded great to me. I was like, how do I get done with all this school stuff,
Yeah.
Little did I know I was about to enroll in a 7-year medical program post.
When do you start working at CV? Well, before we get to that, let's talk about places you work in Lindenhurst. So at a certain point after you work at the Knights of Columbus, is Friendly's your next job?
No. So I worked as a laborer in Inline Velocity. It was a skate park.
Very familiar with it. Yes.
So and Day in the Life played there.
I thought 25 to Life played there too. I think
25 to Life played there.
That was the first Respect Is Lost show.
Yes.
Day in the Life.
Yep. Motive played there. Another time I saw Motive. Overthrow played there. It was like I broke my knuckle there, and that's like.
For context, this is on like North Queens. Is that where it is?
Queens Boulevard,
where that weird sports dome kind of thing is over there now?
Yeah. So this guy Rob, he was the owner. He had this dream to take an industrial lot, put a hockey rink in it, and start like an outdoor hockey thing and a hockey rink. And this guy really did not seem to know how to run a business, and he was just guessing his way through this. But he was kind of successful. But he decided to branch out to other things, and it didn't work out. So we were all hardcore kids, and we were like, "Hey, you should put on a show here. We should get some kids here on like the down days." And like, Stefan was a part of that. Stefan Gaudio, and
he lived right around the corner from there,
right? Right down the block.
Yeah, okay.
Literally right down the block. And that we worked there by like sweeping up, changing garbages. We were laborers, like whatever this guy Rob needed done for the day we did, and it was like terrible work, but I didn't care because it was cash. It was off the books.
What kind of labor does he need done at an outdoor hockey arena?
So because it was in an industrial park, trucks would go by all day long spewing sand onto this hockey rink.
So you have to constantly
if you're like playing roller hockey, you don't want sand all over this rink. So we were constantly blowing and sweeping this thing. It was terrible.
Human Zamboni.
It was yes, it was terrible. And I remember like Greg Cook from Within, and like he would play hockey there, so I'd see him. I'd see like some few faces there. Phil played hockey. Phil Cuero, he would show up there once in a while. It's pretty real Lindenhursty. And then when I broke my knuckle there, I got hit with a skateboard working there from the skate park. during a show actually. So I had to quit. My dad was like, "That's it. You have to quit. You can't work in this whatever's going on in this warehouse with this random dude." I mean, the guy seemed like a full adult, but now that I'm older, he couldn't have been more than like 35 years old. You know, like, and he was trying to just do this revolutionizing like skate park with half pipes in the back that he had like random kids from Lindenhurst build that were just definitely not safe.
Right.
So like hockey going on in this cement poured rink he had built.
Well, that's another thing about Lindenhurst too. We were growing up before it was like, there's a house at every corner. There were so many like vacant lots. And there was always some kids like building like a BMX track or some sort of jump.
Every neighborhood
bikes.
had dirt hills.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, that is actually funny you say that yeah, there's a lot of lots with sand and dirt because I definitely would be on all of them with my like mountain bikes doing dumb stuff. I feel like there was like a run behind Fireman's Park too through like the swamp, and it was the kids would go back there all the time, and I ended up riding my bike because again you saw me on my bike. I used to ride my bike all the way to like Massapequa sometimes, like that was my pre-car, and I was not afraid to pedal for miles on it. So and I went to North Lyndhurst and rode on those trails. It was
lots of dirt hills and sumps to explore, find pornography and
So back to senior year doing the Dowling program. You enter college as a sophomore.
So
Dowling, and you weren't really playing music for a while, right? You were kind of
I'm still playing music. Like right now, even in my brain at this point, it's like, how do I keep music primary? And like, I'm going through the motions behind the scenes. Like high school was like the easiest thing for me. I was a B+ student without even trying. Like as long as I showed up to class, no problem. I hardly did homework. That's why I was a B+ and not an A student, because I was getting dinged all the time for not doing homework. Because my idea was, well, as soon as school's over, where do I go? Where's music happening? Where are things going on in high school? And that's what I did. So, but Dowling helped me. And I enrolled into St. John's pharmacy program after that. And they only took my English and biology from the Dowling program. So they didn't take it all, but it helped me eliminate 2 classes, which was kind of exciting because St. John's had no idea what to think of this early college program. They're like, well, we don't take AP. And I was like, well, it's not AP. And they're like, it sounds like AP. So I had to like go to Dowling, get a transcript, get it like a description of what it was. And they still were like, I don't know about this. So that's why they only accepted English and 1 semester of biology, because that was the only thing they could kind of be like, well, it's not pharmacy based. We'll take that out for you. But it's still a really good program. I mean, if Lindenhurst kids are listening and they still offer that, definitely an awesome thing.
Dowling doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Really? Dowling doesn't exist anymore? Man.
No.
To go back a little bit before we get to you being at St. John. So after inline velocity, is Friendly's the next job after that?
Friendly's is it, man.
Okay. So
yeah.
I brought up a few times in the other interviews, like rite of passage kind of jobs you get in Lindenhurst. And I feel like you've had a few. Well, before I really knew who you were, I knew you sang in a band, and I knew you were the guy that worked at Friendly's that sang in the band. So tell us a little bit about Friendly's and what it was like dealing with, Lindenhurst through that lens.
So Friendly's was an interesting gig. It was all run by kids, and there was one adult manager, again, who seemed super adult, but I swear now that I'm older, they couldn't have been more than like 30. And they were in charge of this entire operation. I mean, Friendly's guys, this is why you're in bankruptcy, okay? Like this is why you're 7-Eleven now. If you're wondering why, this is why. And it was like friggin' Ryan Reynolds movie. Like that's the best way to describe it. Everyone had an attitude. Everyone had an attitude. Nobody really wanted to work. It was like just kids hanging out. Like, we'll get you burgers and French fries. It was really wild. And this was started in '96.
To put it in context for people that don't know, it's the Friendly's in Lindenhurst was on the corner of Westgates and Wellwood, where 7-Eleven is now. But like that was the fucking spot to go.
Oh,
After like a concert, like a middle school, any sort of school event where kids have to wear white shirts and sing or play a recorder.
oh yeah.
Yep,
Fucking
they all lived up there.
everybody is going there.
Everybody.
For a Fribble or whatever the fuck they want after
So,
that.
When
Curly
you
fries.
worked, when you worked at
Jimmy
Friendly's,
Dandies. Yeah.
you worked on Friendly's, and you knew there was a concert night. It was all hands on deck. You were not allowed to be off. Everybody was working. You knew like all of the nurses was coming, and they
especially at the middle school because it's within walking distance from the middle
right
school.
Across the street, right across the street, and we were always out of everything. Like, do you guys like realize that when you guys went there, we were out of everything? Like, you never could straight order exactly what you wanted. You had to make some sort of alteration because you were out of something that you were going to order.
Yeah.
Did you get your share of like shithead kids hanging out there after school got out because they had nothing better to do?
So I don't think it was that bad, actually.
Gotcha.
We had a couple of junior high kids, and every once in a while they would toss them off. But I definitely think after my run, I did 5 years at Friendly's. After my 5 years, that's when like it started to get a little worse. I think that's because the junior high kids got a little tougher, a little bit like not tougher, but like dirtier, Lindenhurstier. You know, like I guess maybe that
that's the Lindenhurst as a verb, or adjective.
Lindenhurster.
But Friendly's also is where you met your wife, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, she's in the other room. So I met her. I had to shave my mohawk to get this job. So this is to get this job in '96. I had to shave my mohawk off to get the job. That was part of the interview, which is highly illegal nowadays to ask a kid to like change his appearance to get the job.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And they're like, you think you could cook? Again, I'm 16 Friendly's.
Yeah.
I literally have no experience. Do you think you could cook? Yeah, if you show me, I can cook.
I think I could do anything. Yeah.
I became the cook of Friendly's. Like, I'm talking 30 hours a week. And my stipulation when I got hired was, hey, I can't work Saturdays and Sundays. And they were like, why not? I'm like, well, I play in a band. I have to do my band thing. And they were like, well, can you do nights during the week? I'm like, I could do whatever. And they were super psyched on that because, again, I wasn't doing homework. I was just cool. So if I had to go to work, who cared? I went right to work. And I met my wife there. And, we have our Friendly's real courting, dating relationship, like throwing ice cream at each other and like just kids running Friendly's and food being just a mess, man. Pouring oil all over the floor in that place. I like, honestly, it's no surprise that place went out of business.
I remember being very impressed, though. Like, wow, he's a chef for a major chain of restaurants. Like, he must know what he's doing. Yeah.
So I faked it till you make it. Like, literally that phrase, fake it till you make it. I did that. And like, I took away a lot from that experience of Friendly's. Like, I still cook very well from learning how to mush and mosh things together. And really, like, they would like change like the taste of the Orient. And like, I remember like when we would make Chinese stir fries, I had to learn how to fry like in a pan on top of their like flat iron grill and deep fry and make biscuits and like all sorts of stuff. And faked it till I made it. Like, and we were supposed to like portion out things. I would give people mountains of French fries. It was just like the whole plate.
This I remember, yes.
Yeah. But everyone always was happy with my food. So with that being said, with everything being said that Friendly's is a mess, I was never one of these guys who was like messing with food. I always put out food that like was like, to me, excellent. Like it's what I would have wanted if my burger came out, if like my food came out, whether it was exactly what people were looking for. I did it like with the best intent, and most people liked my cooking.
It's local celebrity chef.
That's it. And really, it's true. Younger kids would come in and be like, "Holy crap, you're the cook." I'm like, "I'm the cook. I'm the guy." And that's I started calling myself the Grill Ninja there, and that's that's what they all knew me as, the Grill Ninja.
Ninja style.
And I worked there towards the end with like Vinny Latore from Lindenhurst. He was great. Yeah, he was great in there, man. Vinny was a good like second cook. I taught him everything I knew about cooking, and he was pretty good at it. who else was like a Lindenhurst band guy who might have worked there for a quick minute? I don't know, but off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone right now. But there was a lot of faces that came through there from Lindenhurst.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
So
now it's a 7-Eleven.
one of the like 5 or 6 7-Elevens in town. Jesus. So yeah, moving on to college, you're going to a pharmacy program, which I imagine is really intense.
It was the hardest thing I ever did.
Yeah.
So I'm loving music. I'm doing Foreshadow at this point.
Right.
And pharmacy's first semester, I'm still playing my like, well, I don't need to do homework. I just need to go to class. I'm like, I'm gonna be fine. I was like a almost an A student without even trying. How hard could this be too? Nope. I like almost failed out. And it was at this time where Foreshadow, like Derek was kind of like discovering he was like a sound machine connoisseur and could like do this crazy eccentric guitar stuff that like people were kind of interested in. And I wanted to make, Jin breakdown hardcore kind of a thing. And Derek kind of was like, I think I'm done with this. And at the time, Mike Ols was like leaning towards like doing something with Pat and Eric and Greg Cook again. So he was like, I don't know.
Right.
I'm kind of done too. And James also had really fallen like in love. James doing bass. He's had fallen in love with like an emo-y kind of a sound and wanting to do something a little more than
Was
just.
he playing with Coincide then?
So no, this is
Later?
this is like we're coming to this part, and then he's
Gotcha.
like, we finally. My dream in this era is to play with Madball. This is what I'm working towards in high school. Play with Madball. Madball is the top of my hardcore mountain. Still is to this day. Like
Yeah.
Freddie, I
eventually did get to play with them though.
Yeah, like 20 years later, man.
It
So
counts. It totally counts.
So I've met famous people over the years, and still, man, Freddie Cretion, singer of Madball, I like get starstruck from this dude, and he's like really like he's not that famous, but to me, he's this childhood like that's what I want to do. Like I saw him in '94 Hardcore Lives tour, and I'm like, this is the coolest friggin' guy ever. The only other guy I got like that with was Lars from Rancid, just because like I stared at the Rancid poster that I still have hanging in my garage my whole childhood. It was on the ceiling above my bed. Like most kids had Chicks or like the Lambo up there. Mine was was Rancid. And so coming back around, Foreshadow, and this is all going on, and James is like, I think I want to do something different, and he jumps to Coincide, and I'm like, oh man, and this is like the straw that's breaking the back, and everyone's like, I think we're all done. I'm like, I think we're all done. Let's just finish. Now I'm an honorable guy. I can't. Even to this day, I do not like to make plans and break plans. I just hate it. I hate it. So I get OCD about it. So I think we had like 3 shows left, Vito, and we were like, we're gonna play them, and they were good shows. So we played them without a bassist because James quit, and we were coming to the end. And one of those,
I think Eric jumped back in for one.
Yes,
one of the
it was like
Zero shows. Yeah.
Yep, it was like I'll play just to piecemeal you guys through. But I think we played Glassjaw. And E-Town Concrete, Casino Cafe in Island Park is one of our last shows without a bassist. We played as we sounded pretty good. I mean, I remember that show being like, wow, like I wish we could have stuck this out a little bit longer. It was
like right on the cusp of Glassjaw getting signed. Like,
oh my, Glassjaw was playing that
like months before,
before they dropped the album, and they were just like they could play to 300 kids every weekend in Long Island, no matter where they showed up.
Yeah. Same era, I recall seeing James with Coincide. I went with you, Vito, to see them at Ground Zero, and Coincide might have been called like Breath of Eve or something. Yeah.
So they retooled themselves. They were Coincide, and then they like got James, and they did the revamp that like we did with Negative Influence to Foreshadow. They did that Coincide to Breath of Eve.
Yeah, everyone said it sounded like a douche.
Yeah, they call them Summer's Eve.
James had a great time with those guys. Those guys were all a lot of fun. Shout out to Anthony Kaplan. Shout out to Mike Krug. Shout out to Sorrentino. those guys are like, they were like a lot of fun, man.
And back then, it was cool to have like friends in other towns.
Right.
Oh yeah,
You know?
we were
It was
psyched to go to Seaford and hang out with them.
Yeah, well, all the way to Seaford.
Plus, at this time, I have to say, there was like maybe 10 girls in all of Long Island High School.
Yeah.
So if
That's
any
being
young
generous.
kids, if young kids are listening to this, that is a fact. 10 girls. 10.
Yep.
There was no girls. So, and the
And
coolest kids,
forget girls in bands. There were
No.
zero.
absolutely
Definitely
not.
not.
None. And these kids in Coincide hung out with two. They were twins and they were good looking. And it was like, holy crap.
Uh,
So
This is next level.
yeah, like, so why would you not want to quit my band to go hang out with this other band that had like two of the 10 girls, twin girls and a hot?
Right. So yes. So foreshadow. We round out our last shows, and that dissolves a bit. And so you're focused on school for a while. So what was the next thing you did musically?
So I really was like, all right, foreshadow dissolved. I'm in this pharmacy program studying. To be a
also
doctor.
working at CVS now at this time, right?
Yeah.
I am Lindenhurst
Yeah.
across the street, CVS. So,
So at some point, I also it might have been my first or second job, but I also worked at CVS while you had worked in the pharmacy.
yeah,
maybe
we
like-
worked across each other, yeah, for a short
Yep.
little while.
99, 2000 ish, something
Yeah.
around there.
Funny enough, I got my job at CVS serving food from Friendlies to the CVS.
Oh.
They called up. They called up for an order. They ordered like burger, fries, whatever it was, Fribbles, good friendly stuff. And they
Mhm.
came in to pick it up, and I was like, "Hey, I'm starting pharmacy next year from St. John's." And the pharmacist called back. They brought the food back.
Wow.
The pharmacist called. Was like, "Can I talk to that kid who said he was going to pharmacy school and they needed help?" And that's how I got the job. I not auditioned. I interviewed from
Yeah.
Friendlies on their
You were
phone.
recruited.
Yeah, and I got headhunted, and I heartbrokenly had to tell my manager at Friendlies that, listen, I'm going to drop 2 days out of my schedule, and now I'm going to work Tuesday and Thursday at CVS because
You guys are
gotta
going to
start-
bring me food now.
yeah, I got to start to see if like I really want to do this pharmacy thing, and so now I start working literally on the opposite side of the street, just a half a block down, and I got two jobs on the same.
The CVS, which is now Sand City Brewery.
Yes, yeah, I'm telling you, everything I touch does not exist anymore. So far, let's keep score. The Knights of Columbus, gone. My childhood home is gone. It's bulldozed.
Friendlies.
Is gone.
Yeah.
Friendlies is gone. It's changed. CVS is gone.
Uh,
So the moral of this story is, don't get involved with me. I tend to make things
Don't hire Nick. if you
wipe
want.
off the face of the earth.
No, but you did end up working for CVS for a long time. Like even when you became a pharmacist, you were the pharmacist.
So
for
CVS has a program. I could talk at length at how much I dislike them. So I'm going to try to talk positively about them.
It's a big corporation,
Yeah, I mean,
We can take shots.
Yeah. So, but they had a program where like they would work you up and you would move up the ranks from associate, which is just basically a registered person, to a technician, to a lead technician, to an intern, to a graduate intern, to then pharmacist. And I followed that whole program. And every time you moved up, you got a little bit of raise. And I was at CVS the entire length of pharmacy school. So the 6 years I did pharmacy school plus my intern year, which is like a 7th year. So, and I got my doctorate from St. John's and graduated in 2004 and jumped into CVS as a pharmacist starting that October. And I'm still there all these years later. I did leave temp for a little while and I'm still there, still slinging drugs. So in real Lindenhurst fashion, I became a drug dealer, everybody.
A legal drug dealer.
yeah.
right
on
side of the
legit
law.
side.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but not all pharmacists are doctors, correct?
No.
Some are, some aren't.
So I would love to actually know with you guys, if you figure this out, how many doctors actually come out of Lindenhurst? I would love to know.
My brother.
Are PAs doctors?
No, they're physician's assistant. They don't get a
Oh,
doctoral.
boy. They don't want to
No,
hear
no.
that.
I mean, they're more than qualified. I mean, I love PAs. I think they're some of the smartest medical people, but technically they are not.
Right, technically.
Some of the best care I've had was a PA. So
So
Right.
I think PAs care more than doctors. I really do, and I think because they were drawn into the field to be super passionate about taking care of somebody.
Right.
And
It's like a nurse versus a doctor.
They're also being overseen by a doctor. Everything they do is technically signed off and looked over by a doctor.
Whether or not the doctor's actually, yeah.
They're not giving good care. If they're not on their A game,
it falls on that guy.
Yeah, they can be held to pay. So a lot of those guys do give really great care.
So from your perspective at working in pharmacy in a town with an opiate crisis, how does that play out? Do you see an interesting side of stuff with that?
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately,
definitely Lindenhurst has its demons, most definitely. And I think the South Shore in particular has a huge problem. I mean, I'm not in Lindenhurst anymore, working anymore, so I can't, say within the last decade now what it's like. But when I was there 10 years ago, for about 15 years, man, I seen people come in and, we did, needle exchange, not a needle exchange, but a state-proven program, which people still, this shocks them. You can go in and buy needles. It's by the state, so people get clean needles and they do not share needles, because kids who fall this far down the rabbit hole are going to inject themselves with drugs. It is not a matter of, oh, well, I couldn't get needles today, so I'm not going to do it. They're going to do it. They're going to share needles. They're going to reuse needles. And all this stuff can lead to terrible skin infections, cellulitis, all sorts of collapsed veins, and they can lead to, sepsis, death, amputation of arms, like toes, legs, because everyone thinks of that classic heroin injection in the arm, but some of these kids do it behind the knee, in between toes, in between fingers. There's a lot of good places that a lot of people, a lot of parents are not seeing the signs, because you think of this classic movie in the, bend of the arm injection of heroin.
People are trying to hide it.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate now. I mean, not to get too dark, but, with pain management and whatnot, a lot of people do well on the opiate drugs as long as they're kept on a short leash and overseen by their doctor.
Right. Used as prescribed.
Right.
It's, drug use, not drug abuse.
We're coming to the end of an opiate crisis. Early on, this is why all the OxyContin makers and stuff are in litigation. They're being scrutinized because they really facilitated a green light to medical community that, oh, it's okay, give people 120 OxyContin. What? And now we've come back, and what I see now is people getting single digit numbers of painkillers again,
10 or less. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 8. Yeah. Wow. Whereas I remember, at
30
time,
pills at a time. Yeah.
90 at a time, 120 at a time. And I'm like, this guy had a tooth removed.
That's what I was going to ask. So as the pharmacist, is it your job to mitigate what the provider is prescribing if it doesn't seem like it's a rational,
yes,
you know what I mean, amount of a medication given what it's for?
Yes.
What's the actual process in that?
So anything that I deem is not appropriate or out of their scope of practice or abuse in any way.
You were working at a time where paper prescriptions were still a thing. It wasn't done electronically.
Yeah, and I saw it all, man. Prescriptions come in with refills added in wrong color inks. Right. Dates crossed out and rewritten in, all sorts of stuff.
Different handwriting on top of the.
Oh my God, crazy stuff. Photocopied, clearly whited out, rewritten in stuff and it's man, get out of here, guys. I can't fill this for you. You got to get out of here.
Now, what happens when you catch something like that? Is it then your job to then call the provider and be like, hey, why does this baby need 100 milligrams of lithium or whatever the fucked up thing is?
Yeah. So even to yesterday at work, antibiotic was written so incorrectly, and I knew it was incorrectly, and all the hairs on my head stand up, and I call over to the doctor, and there's this thing in the medical community where people right on their high horse, you're this is wrong, blah, blah. And then the doctor's no, I'm a doctor, you're wrong. And I always go into it completely laid back, and I the nurse picked up, and I'm like, hey, calling from pharmacy, this doesn't seem right. I don't usually see this medication dosed 4 times a day. And she's like, Let me look at the chart. No, he wrote 4 times a day. The doctor wants 4 times a day. I'm like, listen, I don't understand why he would need this much, because usually you see 1 a day for 5 days, not 4 a day for 20 days. This doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, can I speak to him personally? Because I want to spitball with him what he's treating, what he's doing. And she's like, well, I don't know. He does this all the time. Like, I've never seen it. Can you please? I'm not dispensing this. And once I say that, usually they're like, oh, they take my name, they take my number, and I gotta wait. But that's exactly what took place. And the doctor called back and was like, yeah, you can't dose that way. I thought I could use the other antibiotic that sounds like this name. I'm like, no, that other one you can. This one you can't. This is a once a day dosing. It's just too intense. You can't go that high.
Right.
And he's like, and he played it off like, oh, but it's the same class. I think it's okay. But you know what? I'll make a change because you're suggesting it. I'm like, yeah, all right.
Do you think that's like an old guard, new guard thing where older people in medicine are a little more resistant to, that? Yeah. I mean, I was interested to see what he was going to throw at me, I've had Adderall doctors tell me like, no, I need to use this much Adderall. The kid's doing this. I'm trying it for off-label use. And I'm like, well, he's not getting it from me at this pharmacy. I'm not dispensing 100 milligrams of Adderall extended release to anyone. Like, it's just not happening.
Yeah. And I'm sure you see too all the time, like one specialist prescribes one thing and another specialist prescribes another thing. And it's obvious they haven't communicated at all.
Yeah.
Because those 2 medications should not be taken together.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You run into that problem a lot, actually, when older people or people go to the hospital and they get they have to be admitted, and the hospital doctor like unconstructs everything this person has been on and then gives them a handful of prescriptions to start on, but really didn't make the communication to the patient what their plan is. And a lot of people assume, well, these are all my new meds. I'm still supposed to take all my old meds.
Right.
And that's when I run into like, hey, are you changing, your blood thinner? Like, because, there's 2 now that are here and you should not get 2 blood thinners. We should be keeping you on one or the other. And you run into this conversation and they're like, well, which one did the hospital doctor give me? I'm like, this one. They're like, oh, I guess I take that one now. I'm like, I think, yeah. And I think you should follow up with your primary and get him on the same page as you, because, you want to try to like make sure everybody's connected in this medical community that you're on.
It's hard to do too, especially with insurance.
It's hard
issues.
to do. And the pace we have to do it in retail pharmacy is like, we're superheroes. We really are. Like, I can't, like, I look at a chart so fast and like, it impresses me some days that I'm like, holy crap. The fact that I picked out that something was wrong there impresses me, and the days where I don't pick out something, I'm like, holy crap. Could everything have been right today? Like that's like, seems crazy.
Yeah. But getting back to you. So you're doing the pharmacist thing, finish school, settling down with your wife.
Yeah.
The whole 9.
But I have to say, like, what so as soon as I get out of pharmacy school, I start down in the 4th. Come back to more music.
Ask you, yeah.
Come back to more music. I mean, I don't know how much music you want to talk or how much Lindenhurst you want to talk, but yeah. So down the 4th. So down the 4th is my next big venture, man.
And quite an assortment of Lindenhurst characters in that band.
So this is James is back, man. I get my bassist back after he broke my heart and left me for Coincide. But we maintain friendship, like it's band thing, like. And you also
my brother Vinny on guitar.
Yeah. So that's really, I was hanging out in your basement for shows, for our practices, and I really didn't know your brother that well. He was always like, because he is younger, and like he didn't really come down and watch us play hardly ever. Right. And even when we were there, he would grab food real quick and disappear back upstairs. So I remember James be like, I want to start a band. You're into it? I'm like, yeah. He's like, who are we going to have? He's like, I think I'm going to get Vito's younger brother to play guitar. I'm like, can he play guitar? And James is like, not only can he play, he's excellent. I'm like, really? I'm like, where did this kid come from? I'm like, did he go to shows or anything? He's like,
oh yeah.
I had been out of hardcore because I really buckled down to study pharmacy. I had to put my passion in life on hold to concentrate on pharmacy. But now pharmacy round to an end, and I'm like, got to get back into this hardcore thing. Like this is everything for me. And this is how Down the Fourth took off.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really, really fun band. You know, like we brought in James's brother, Vinny McCullough, who your podcast is named after his Edna Goldfish thing.
Yep. Guitarist of Edna's Goldfish.
We should also mention Joe Ciotto on drums.
Of course, I was going to bring Joe in. Joe is such a pivotal guy in my life. I mean, you know, sometimes he's a whipping boy for a lot of people, but Joe believed in me.
You don't get that without loving him.
No, Joe believed in me from the Negative Influence days, and Joe would come to like all my shows.
He loved Negative Influence.
Man, just loved it. He bought me this ninja headband that I kept tied to the visor of my first car for like the better part of a decade. I was like, at this point, he was just a fan from Lindenhurst who came to see me, and like he was like, I'm like, wow, a fan gave me a gift. This is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, and he was at all the shows, and then now we had become friendly. And James again is like, hey, we're gonna do this project Down the Fourth, and Vinny and Joe are gonna play drums. And I'm like, well, how is Joe? And he's all right. And I don't know, man. Joe always struck me as like, wow, this kid could play. Joe
has a very unique style on drums.
He does.
Loud.
He's also loud.
But I like that though.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean,
it's different. You know when it's him for sure.
And the fact he never plays with a double bass pedal, which even when it became super fashionable to play one, he held back and he was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm sticking to what I like, what I'm comfortable with. And, you know, pun intended, you never miss a beat with it. You know, like you don't.
He's a lefty, so he's automatically a weirdo. You know?
Oh yeah. So courtesy of Joe, I'm in the gym air drumming lefty because like that's what I see all the time.
That's funny. Yeah. So Down to the Fourth is playing shows, and you know, unfortunately, James gets sick.
Yeah.
But it's still playing. Well, it was before that too, because he was in Heads versus Breakers with me.
Yeah,
he was doing both at the same time, I think, at some point, right?
I think Heads versus Breakers was winding down for whatever the reason was.
Well, he left before they wound down because Hugo played bass
Hugo was the bass player.
But
James was really good. I recall
No Funeral played, but Down on the Fourth a whole bunch. We had a whole bunch of shows.
The
Courthouse and
we played.
What's the other place?
Duke's Neutral with you guys.
I'm a shirt here.
Yeah, it's a shirt. That was a great show. That was a Joe birthday show, actually.
It was. Birthday. Yeah.
Down the Fourth was a lot of fun, man. I learned a lot about music with that whole project, and I was doing like the growl scream, I like to call that period of my life.
Yeah,
and it was what was going on in hardcore. Like everyone was like leaning towards like either like super emo, I felt, or they were trying to like out top each other metal wise. Like it was really weird. We had moved away from this traditional old school hardcore sound, and everyone now is like pushing up the chips to ante up higher with the metal sound, and like who could be crazier, I felt, was the time frame for this.
Well, you anteed up even further. You brought 2 axes out during your set.
So cousin Joey from DMS, who could not tell you my name, still comes up to me and he's like, "You're that guy with the axes, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Come on, it's like 15 years ago." Yes. And
you would sneak them into the show in like a guitar case, right?
So I would sneak them into the show, 2 axes, 2 legit do work around the yard, double-sided axes. And we wrote a song, like a cheesy metal, fast, Slayer-esque song. But the idea was we were going to create a part where I can bang them together and play to the beat of the song. So we already had like 2 sections of the song that like were created of like ding, 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 ding. Like that's what we were going to do. And we were going to work around it. And we became fastly known as the Axe Band. And
everyone paid attention when that happened for sure.
everybody, like, sometimes we would play shows and kids would be like, whatever, this is this like second band on, no one, and then that would happen.
Plank.
Kids would come running in from wherever they went, and the whole venue would be full. Like, everyone,
this guy's gonna fucking kill everyone.
and there were so many small bar places that, like, you would see the owner behind the bar just turn white, like, oh no, tonight's the night. We're like,
please don't drop it on someone's head. Please don't drop it on someone's head.
And I did do my best to keep them away from the crowd. There were times where I had to, like, put a leg up on someone, and yank that thing out of their hand. They wanted to take it from me so bad.
Luckily, you're strong.
Luckily, I always worked out, so I was
right.
A little strong. And those were like such a bad idea. I have scars on. On both my thumb knuckles from banging them together, and almost like deli slicing off my thumbs.
Now you need like a falconer's glove if you're gonna do that, or something.
I had railroad worker gloves, but early on I could never put them on in time because I wanted the axes to be like this super surprise for everyone who had not seen it. And like I think I had like, I don't know, 20 seconds for when the song started and like rang out and like, and then it would just be like, dun, dun, dun. And I just needed to be there at that point.
Yeah. So, once again, not to go super dark, but, James was going downhill health-wise at the time. But that's what made Down in the Fourth a little bit more special to me, too. It was kind of like, we're keeping this together for James just so he has this experience,
It was just like that. I mean, even Vinny McAuliffe coming from Edna's Goldfish, like
to play in a crazy hardcore band,
playing this, like, everything that's really not what I would consider Vinny is like preference, musical preference, and like where he sees his musical career going, but he wants to be in his band with his brother.
Yeah, and that made it so special to me.
It's such an awesome dynamic that they were in a band together. James built Vinny a guitar from hand, and Vinny played in our band with this hand-built guitar. It's like,
it was cool,
very cool.
I remember, so my 3 favorite sets from a hardcore band ever. Coincidentally, they happened on the 6s. 96 was Warzone at the PWAC.
That's a good show.
2016 was the Turning Point reunion at Philly at This Is Hardcore. And 2006, when you guys played with Neglect at that place in Levittown. Now, I don't know if that was James's last show or was one of his last shows.
I don't think James was there. I think that was
that was a Chesco show.
Yeah, James
Chesco's the
Neglect did not
afterwards.
Neglect did not play the Indecision Celebrity Murders Motive.
No. This was
Mind Over Matter show.
I think it was one.
Chesco did play shows. That was after James passed away.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I was not at the Neglect show, but was the Neglect show at the same place, like 28,
it was at the same place
or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we I don't know if James played that with us. I feel like the 2 times we played with Neglect, James wasn't there. I could be wrong, but I don't think that was.
It was either way. It was near the end for him, and you guys were all just like visibly frustrated and kind of burnt out on the whole thing.
Yeah,
and that all came out on stage that night, and
really?
Just that set sticks out of my head so much because it was just so for real, and that's what that music is all about. It's just a positive release.
Is that this? Are you sure? Is that the set that Baldwin recorded the video from?
No,
from that show.
That's the other show. That's the Mind Over Matter.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. James was definitely not at that one.
Right.
No, he was definitely at the show. It was a very long show. Neglect went on really late.
Oh yeah.
Any other bands you remember on the show?
So that was, I think, played.
Okay. Yes, I remember the show. James played the show.
Yes.
James was sick. James felt like garbage, and James was hanging in because Neglect is just this like band that I absolutely love too. Like they're like in this top 5 of like local hardcore acts for me.
Tattooed on you?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, I have a handgun tattooed on my lower back, And in like the handle of this handgun, I have like, you would make a custom grip if this was a real gun.
Yeah.
And in that custom grip is the Neglect logo skull with the big like vampire walrus like tusks in it. And I always called it my Fuck Life gun, which is like named after Fuck Life, the song.
Maybe we can insert the echoey Fuck Life sound right here.
Fuck. While we're on Neglect, there's this like partial YouTube video of Neglect singing Fuck Life at CBGB's that I recorded, and it has like 2,000 plus views on it.
Wow.
And I'm not even associated with the account anymore. I uploaded it back in 2000 something, and it's still up, still collecting views.
They still have a cult following.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, man.
I'm
Without
still
a doubt.
in it.
But yeah, like I said, that show really sticks out in my mind. Like you guys, you just let it all out on stage.
Yeah,
I was really impressed.
I think we knew James was coming to the end.
Yeah,
that was also,
you could sense it for sure.
It was also the show. That was the show shortly after we played in Lindenhurst at the church that's up by like with Crime and Stereo.
My preschool.
Yes, I had booked that show as well. No Funeral also played that.
Yes, so that was the show we weren't allowed to curse on stage. And it was really tough for every band, and it is tough for me. I try not to curse. I'm usually pretty good at it, but once I get that microphone in my hand,
all bets are off.
All bets are off. And not only that, I have this like subconscious thing. You can't curse, and it is inversely working for me.
Yeah, the whole time you're like, fuck, can't fuck.
And James is like throwing up back there. Vinny's I'm looking at Vinny, and Vinny's like, we have to stop. And I'm like, come on, Vinny, just one more. And like the show is just ape. Like kids are hanging from the ceiling. We got in trouble for kicking the exit sign that's like 20 feet up in the air.
Ironically, not allowed to play shows there anymore. No more shows.
No, we were definitely the last show there.
Or the last non-churchy show.
Yeah. And another great out of the fourth last show, we played Dr. Shays the last time a real heavy Lindenhurst band played there. Wasn't with James. We actually wasn't even with Vinny. So we had Chesko and Rob McAllister filled in.
Oh, wow.
On rhythm guitar there. And we were not supposed to be the headlining act. I can't tell you exactly who the headlining act, but we ended up being the headline act because the police raided the place. But for me, that was like I had come home to the place that solidified hardcore for me with the Sunday matinees at Dr. Shays. And not only that, but I was the act. Kids really wanted to see us. Kids were super interactive about us playing. It felt like Down in the Fourth came so much together. And I know it was also because James had shortly just passed away.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like, I want to go out and support this kid, even though, and it was really cool to have Rob play with us. He came to practice a couple times, learned the songs. I mean, it was really awesome. And, shout out to Rob. Rob's a great guy. I don't know if Lindenhurst High School, I would have been able to find my way into the quote unquote freak scene, although I was chasing hardcore down. But Rob was the first one who was like, hey, man, what are you up to? Like, you go to a music thing? Like, he was like really the first guy who was just really nice to me. Like, it wasn't standoffish with me. Like some of these Lindenhurst hardcore faces, freak faces were kind of like, dude, you were a jock at the beginning of this year. Like, I don't mess with us. We know you don't belong. What is your deal? And I was kind of like,
there's gatekeeping even when there's not gatekeeping.
And I was kind of like,
it's like you're supposed to know exactly who you are at 14 years old.
Yeah. And I at this point, I'm like, trying to be like, listen, I'm really not a jock. I've never been. These kids are freaking terrible to me. I definitely don't fit in with them.
I didn't know there was another choice.
Yeah,
I
know.
So moving on from Down in the Fourth, in between that and the next band, which is No Face, you're doing the Misfits tribute.
So I do. I take some time off after Down in the Fourth, and then Parker from Sky Came Falling shows up with Rob All Hallows, because Rob and him started this All Hallow clothing company, like a horror Halloween clothing company, like metal-esque clothing company, I guess, because
I can recall you shooting a commercial in the old practice space.
We did.
Where they followed you walking around and stuff. Yeah.
Down to the fourth, shot a commercial. And that's how I met Rob Walhallos at this time. And he lives in the South now. He moved to North Carolina. He's down there now. He's doing pretty good for himself.
As many Long Islanders too.
Yeah, I mean, this place is tough to live in. And Rob and Parker from Sky King Fallen were like, hey, let's start a cover band. We're going to do Misfit covers. What do you think of that? I'm like, well, that's cool. I love the Misfits. I mean, I don't know their songs enough to sing like a set of 30 because I knew right away. When you're talking Misfit covers, you're not doing a 10-song set. You'll be done in like 10 minutes. Or nothing.
You're doing all of them.
You're going to need to be prepared for this. And I did that for like 4 years. That was a lot of fun.
That long? Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. And we practiced in the basement of my house that I'm in right now. And no one ever complained. No one ever called the cops on us. And we played a lot of cool shows. And I have to say, financially, that was probably the most successful band I was ever in. It's amazing that people want to pay you to play other people's songs. Wow.
Always.
Meanwhile, at that time, it was like now it feels like a couple times a year you can go see the Misfits play. They're back around playing shows. There was no fucking chance of that then.
Nope, not at all.
Or maybe they were doing the Misfits project shit where Marky Ramone would play with Jerry Only, would play with whoever.
That's it. Even at this time, Danzig
post Michael Graves,
yeah. Post Michael Graves, it was whoever they could dig up to basically be a cover band, but yet they toured with the name Misfits because of
whoever's
Jerry
bones they could dig up.
Yeah. I got to actually talk to Marky Mark at one of those. Not Marky Mark. That would be awesome. Marky Ramone outside the downtown, and he was like, "Hey man, thanks for watching our set." Yeah, he's like, you into music? I'm like, yeah, I played in bands. Like, that's keep at it, man. Keep at it. Don't give up. And I was like, wow, I just had a conversation with a Ramone. That's so crazy.
He said that to everyone he met that night.
Of course. But for me, it was like, wow, man, this guy's smoking a cigarette, leaning up against the building, and I'm just casually talking to another guy who I really love everything they do.
Yeah. So that makes a little more sense to me because so your next original band, No Face.
Yeah.
You switched up your vocal style quite a bit.
So band. I had loved doing what I was doing with Down to the Fourth. It felt like it was right for what was going on in hardcore at the time and metal at the time. But I felt like it wasn't the hardcore I loved to know. And Seattle comes to me. He's like, I'm starting another band. I'd like you to be in it, but I don't know if I want you to do what you were doing. And I'm like, Joe, that's remarkable because I would like to try something else. I'd like to actually wow everybody who's seeing me expecting to hear hear something else come out of me. At this point, behind the scenes, I'm listening to a lot of blues music. The truth be told, now in my adult life, I listen to a lot of old 50s, 60s, 70s, Black artists, blues players. I love the way that sound, the way the lyrics come across. I could feel that emotion in that music the way I can with hardcore.
There's nothing like that early blues. That's it's punker than punk for sure.
Man, it's just just something in that's just wow. And there's some new acts who do it pretty good. I'm into the Black Keys. They'll pull some good blues out, good stuff. But or Gary Clark Jr.
Clark Jr. I was just gonna say, yeah.
Just even John Mayer, you'd think hey, the body's like a wonderland. He plays blues guitar really emotional. Yeah. He's really good at it.
Grateful Dead, right?
He's in the Grateful Dead,
yeah. Is he really?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Or Dead and Company,
Dead
whatever
and Company.
it is. But
good for him.
For clarification's sake, No Face was not a blues band.
It was not.
It was a hardcore band.
No, it was a hardcore band, and it was all right, so we're gonna do something different. And I'm I want to go back to this classic, old school, which is now not old school, which was the sound of this time. So now we've gotten through this let's out metal each other, and that's still going on. That's still a thing in hardcore. It's still a thing now today where these kids do this. But I'm no, I want to go to this
come back again.
Sound. Yeah, I want to go back to what I originally fell in love with. This Sick of It All, Madball, overthrow, like clean vocals, fast paced drum beat, Civ, Gorilla Biscuits. Like I want that experience in my music.
And
And
who else is in No Face besides Joe?
it's Seattle, and Seattle is like, hey, I got this guy Jesse Noble, who's been around, who does some tattoos, and like he's pretty good at guitar. We've been jamming a little bit. I'm like, all right, and then we need to find a bassist, and he pulls Paul. I'm like, Paul, who's Paul? And he's like, Paul from Silent Majority. I'm like, there's a Paul in Silent Majority, and
early on,
yeah,
and he's the original bassist in Silent Majority. Shout out to Paul. Paul's an amazing dude. And, I always said this about Paul. His biggest struggle is people don't know he was in Silent Majority. Like, you go places and people are like, I heard the ex-Silent Majority in this band. Who? I'm like, the bassist. And everyone would be like, he was in Silent Majority. I'm like, yeah, he is. Go open your album insert. You're going to see a picture of this dude.
He played on the record.
What had happened, which I asked him, and he like, right as Life as a Spectator is coming out, they're going to drop this album and play this show. He decides to, be the family.
Is it his face on the CD?
Yes.
Yeah.
He bows out. No. The kicked in teeth, that's Dan Kerr.
No, on the CD itself, isn't there someone's face on it?
I think it's Dan Kerr, and he's all beat up. I'm pretty sure, but his face is all on the inside of that insert.
Yeah.
And he leaves the band right before they drop this like hardcore
masterpiece,
major influenced album on all of the United States music. I mean, who could not? If you're in music anywhere in the U.S., I think Silent Majority has come across your ears at some point or another. Absolutely, whether it was just like, check this out,
like a Rosetta Stone album for people in the scene we grew up in and around.
And that was, they were coming from our high school, and that's literally, I'm a freshman and this is happening.
It's as cool as it fucking gets.
The seniors are like literally like MTV level act and like playing like crazy that I'm seeing this, and that's what I jumped into. So Paul's my bassist, and I'm like, wow, this is great, and it was a great sound. And I remember we plugged in and we were just like, let's just make noise, and we made noise and we played fast. And I really think if we could have pushed No Face a little harder, a little more, a little longer, that was the band that would have clicked. It would have clicked. I really like, for everything I did musically, man, I felt like the recipe, the ingredients were there. It just wasn't like out of the oven and served to the right fucking people. Like it just was like shit. And even like the stuff we were writing, like, oh, man, like it pains me so much because I left my soul on all that stuff. Like before then, I was writing angry stuff. I was writing like what I thought maybe people wanted to hear, but with No Face, it was like, if you go back and try to read through my stuff, if anyone has any of that stuff, thank you. I appreciate you for still having some of my stuff. My soul is on those albums, like literally, like I'm struggling through those songs, like that's legit.
But and it really seemed like No Face was really in your voice, like literally.
Yeah,
that was, I would listen to that and it was you.
That's it, man. Like that
really came into your own.
Yeah, this is the thing, in my opinion, with vocalists, and I guess just musicians. As you get older, you play in more bands with more people, you get better at doing what you're doing. So when you listen to like your latest, the last band you did versus the first band you did, you're going to hear maturity and a improvement because you feel more confident in yourself and all that sort of stuff as time goes on. So,
but No Face was kind of a really cool experience. I got to play with so many like acts that I never thought I would get to play. I got to play with Madball, finally hit my home run. Got to play with them like under great terms. I took this. It's on my Instagram, this picture with Freddie, and I'm like shaking, like I can't even smile. I'm like, I'm taking a picture with Freddie. I got to play with the Cro-Mags.
Yep.
And John Joseph, he was wearing like a space helmet with shoelaces tied around his neck that were like to special biking shoes.
Just did a triathlon, probably.
I had and
the
he's
HR's
watching.
space helmet.
He watched my whole set, like the whole set, front and center. And then he comes to the back. And he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, what's your name, man?" And I'm like, "Nick."
You work out, bro?
No, he's like, "What's your band's name?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Dude, whatever you're doing," he's like, "it's really good. It's really different from what I'm hearing out there. I really, really, really like it." And I was like, "Holy shit, fucking John Joseph just told me that I'm doing something really different and cool. Like, that's awesome, man."
Yeah.
And we got to play with
Strife, I remember.
Strife.
Yeah.
Straight edge, like classic band. And like they had changed over like a few guys and were playing newer stuff because they were trying to like progress it. So it wasn't as that exciting for me, but it was still very cool. And we got to play with Bane. I played with Bane, which was really awesome. I missed playing with Bane. I was like in college when they were like top of the world hardcore. That was really sick.
You go backwards for a second. Down in the Fourth once played CBs with Papa Roach. That's correct?
That is correct. That is we were.
Well, the guy was there. I remember.
Right. I think it was like 8 hours later they played or something like that.
Yeah, they were there. They saw us load in. They waved to us, and then we didn't see them again. And then they played that night on the bill. That was a cool show. That was one of the first save CB shows that we know we're never going to save CBs, but I just want to steal as much money as possible to shut this place down.
If Papa Roach is who you're getting to save CBs, sorry CBs, it's not happening.
That same night, I also met one of the Dead Boys waiting online.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I remember sneaking out and telling my mom I was going to the Fitzgerald's house to hang out with Hugo, and me and Hugo would take the train and go to Manhattan. Could you imagine like the balls on a 15-year-old, to get on a train and go all the way to the Lower East Side to go to CBGB's and Paul Barra from Sheer Terrors, the doorman working the door.
It's also like the beginning of Giuliani. So the city isn't what it is now, you know?
No.
It's fucking scary.
and me and Hugo saw Marauder, Madball, Gnostic Front, Sick of It All. We were seeing the DMS cream of the cream, 2000s hardcore, you know, even Killer Idols, we saw them there and they didn't fit in. People were like, "Who's this Long Island act?" Now that's you know, they would be monumental if they played there now, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I saw Fury of 5 there too with Hugo.
We saw them at Wetlands that one time.
Yes.
That too.
Yes.
Yeah.
We opted for Neglect and Fury of 5 over a Silent Majority Mind Over Matter show.
Yeah.
That was happening on the other side of the city.
Crazy
how much was happening.
But moving on from that. So that's really your last real band. To this point.
Yeah, that's it. So when I turned 35, I was still in No Face, and at that point, I had said to myself, if I'm not doing something major by 35, whenever that band dissolves, I'm just retiring from making music. If I was gonna impact people, I think it would have been at that point. I played a lot of shows, a lot of kids saw me, but overall, this sounds a little sad, a little dark. I failed at music. I really did. Super failed. It haunts me to no end. It's something.
Hard disagree.
Because
I will say that you and Vito and those people are the people that influenced me and my dumb friends around my age to start playing in bands, who then influenced the younger kids in the Somerset Thrower and the Backtrack from Lindenhurst to keep that going. And in the chain of things, the Silent Majority people got you guys into it, but we all started our own things outside of what the people ahead of us were doing to bring it to the next people. And it's a chain that still goes on today,
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, my goal had always been to just make an EP that stood the test of hardcore time. And I never did it.
Self-released EP for No Face though.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I was recording tapes and handing them out.
Of course. Yeah.
I must in Foreshadow, I must have hand single tape to tape copied 500 to 1,000 cassettes and gave them all away. Just gave them all away.
I'm gonna have to hit you up for that Shadow stuff because I don't have anything. I know we
I
just
don't
recorded
know.
like a basement tape. I think that was
Yes.
about it for
That's
us.
it.
And
Man.
you
But I would
were
love to
always
hear
good
that.
for putting your band stickers all over signs fucking everywhere in town. So
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of people who would not know that Foreshadow Negative Influences changed their name, that appeared all over Lindenhurst High School when I was there. By the Benvenuti bar mural in the language hallway. Which I think your locker was by, right, Vito?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
The language hall, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Man,
And Nick's was down at the end.
mine was down at the end, and it was so full of amazing hardcore band stickers. It looked like the inside of CBGB's. There was no metal
Do you
showing.
remember the Loyal to None sticker on the bulletin board on the way to the boys' locker room in the
There-
gym?
Yes.
There was one
Yeah.
in my locker. My
Yeah.
first day of school, I opened my locker up and there was a Loyal to None sticker in there. So,
Yeah.
like I said, the hardcore finds you in Lindenhurst if you're.
It does. It really
in with it.
does.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, Lindenhurst has been part of so much hardcore music, man.
They
So
really have left the
much.
faintest of traces, huh?
Yeah.
So anyway, but so this whole time, you're in your 30s now, but you've been a big outdoorsman your
Yes.
entire life.
So I didn't know if you were gonna encompass like my new endeavor, which is
Oh,
like,
absolutely, we have to, yeah. I mean,
So
we can't mention you without mentioning all that. Yeah, you were always a big hunter, a big outdoorsman.
So I mean, I was always in amongst the straight edge, vegan, vegetarian, hardcore punk rock kids.
Yeah.
And here I am flying the hunting flag with all of them, like, and trying to be like, hey guys, listen, I'm a hunter. Okay, and it sounds wait, hear me out. Like I'm a cool guy, right? Like so, like let's come to some sort of agreement. And over the years, I think to be honest, as a hunter, I am actually closer to like a vegan belief and a vegetarian belief, but somewhere our paths cross, and I take down the animal and eat them. But like the vegans are like refuses to at that point. But like,
well, it's all kind of like an anti-factory farming, processed food type of
and
thing.
like the waste of food and the waste of how like there's no connection to food, which leads to obesity and overeating and everything. Like when I eat something that like I'm a part of in hunting, there really is a connection that like you might hear other people talk about other famous hunters and stuff, and it is something 100% true. You like. Oh, you like are so connected. And I mean, I guess Long Island's full of fishermen. Don't you guys, when you eat your fish, you like, oh wow, I remember wheeling this in and like filleting this and the boat and the day.
This is why Jeffrey Dahmer had such a connection with his victims, right?
Yes. So bands are over. I'm gonna just come back a quick second.
Yeah.
Bands are over.
Right.
I've always been a hunter. I've always flown that flag. I've always, like very proud of that. I'm a hunter, and I would always gingerly walk into it like, hey, listen, I'm gonna be honest, I am a hunter. I know you think hillbilly, gun nut. I'm not anything like that. When I always describe my hunting, think more Indian, less redneck. I'm very spiritually connected to hunting in the outdoors. And I've always flown that exact kind of flag and attitude. And I get it if when vegans are like, I'm not into this. And I try to explain to them, like, listen, you might actually like what I'm about. Like, give me a second, hear me out. And then
but I think a misconception is you can be pro hunting and like wilderness and wildlife like that without being like a fucking gun nut,
Yes. So you really can. In fact,
you're a bow hunter, right?
I do it all. Bow hunt.
Okay.
Mainly, I do most of my time in the woods with the bow. I do enjoy it the most. I do rifle hunt for the rifle season, and as I got older now I musket hunt too. It's called black powder. I do that too, and that's real old school with a ramrod and a projectile. You get one shot. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of smoke, a lot of fire. It's a lot of fun. It's cold as hell because you're in like the December time range.
Right.
So I gave up on music, and I'm like, what else am I going to do? Well, my other passion in life since I'm 6 years old, it's kind of the only thing that me and my dad have ever agreed on. We both like hunting. We both did it together. I don't think with hunting, me and my dad would have an adult relationship because there's so much divorce fighting, so much, internal family struggle. And I didn't really do well in sports, but we liked hunting. So when bands ended, I'm like, I'm gonna dive into my new passion in life. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? I want to like do hunting. So I'm like, I'm gonna go buy a piece of land and I'm gonna like dive into this. And it turned into, I bought this foreclosed horse farm in upstate New York on roughly 30 acres. And I decided I miss entertaining. Entertaining is a huge part of me, and I'm not going to be on stage. What am I going to do? And I started vlogging like what I'm doing around my place, which I named Fig and Clover Ranch. So I have a YouTube channel that's called Fig and Clover Ranch. And the name is derived from exactly what I was saying. I didn't want to call it Nick's Gun and Death Club because you get a lot of that, you know, like
there's already one of those.
Man, oh, like, you know, like guns and antlers hunting club and stuff, you know, and I wanted something classy, something that like kind of doesn't sound like hunting. And so my last name, everyone always said, you know, my dad's nickname was Fig. So fig leaf, it's super Ginzo Italian, that fig tree, you know. And then my wife is Irish. So I was like, you know what? Clover. I'm like, let's put together like plants and outdoor elements. And it came to be Fig and Clover Ranch. And now I self-vlog and YouTube myself. You know, check that out if you want to see a lot of farming and tree cutting and like pseudo hunting. Again, I try not to focus on the, you know, the impact shot and the death end of hunting, but I mean, it's there a little bit, but that's not on my main focus. My main focus is like, hey, what am I doing today to make my land better for the forest, for the deer, for the small game, just like all sorts of like what is good for the land. And so I'm cutting out invasive plants. I'm turning over the forest so it grows to the next generation in a better manner. Putting in, you know, grazing grass that has gone out of fashion. That's not around anymore. I planted chestnut trees in a big portion of the area, which chestnut trees were all destroyed in the early, the mid 1900s from a Chinese blight that killed them all. So there are no native chestnut trees anymore in America. And now there's a movement to bring them back, and I'm planting them on my property. It's pretty awesome. They're now like 12 feet tall this year. I'm really excited. I should get chestnuts next year.
That's cool. And a lot of like DIY building,
a lot of DIY
things going on. Back to the punk and hardcore thing. I mean, you kind of brought that spirit into what you're doing right now, which is cool.
Without a doubt. And I'm trying to be that super entertaining. Like my stage now is me standing in a field in front of a tripod and like just jumping around and being the idiot me. But instead of singing my heart out, I'm telling you like, what's going on? I'm like, we're planting grass today. We're killing weeds. We're smashing pumpkins, you know, like doing all sorts of stuff.
And it seems like people are engaging you with you in the comment section and
so I mean, all over. Honestly, this will be my first like real public, like, hey guys, this is what Nick's doing. If you want to check it out, check Fig and Clover Ranch. I've never reached out with the intent of like, follow me. This is my new thing. I wanted to kind of like slip into a whole new area of like thing and like not try to take anything with me. Just try to see like if I can build from the ground up completely, like just like starting something different. I mean, I could have easily pulled in 1,000 followers of hardcore kids who are never really going to watch my video and just blow my YouTube channel up right away because all these kids have seen me around in a mosh pit jumping on stage, and I didn't want to do that. You know, like I wanted to try to like ease in and
make it organic in a way.
Yeah, and I got a few videos now that have, you know, almost 10,000 views each, and it's pretty awesome.
That is cool.
Hopefully we can get the bulldog bump from you, or you can get it from us. You know, anyone listening to this can check you out, or vice versa.
Yeah, definitely.
So if people want to search you out on the web, it's Fig and Clover Ranch on YouTube, also Instagram.
Instagram, yep.
Very cool.
Yeah,
all right.
And that's what I'm doing now. I feel like we've been on for 2 hours, and I could go for another 2 hours and like side jump.
We will get to a part 2 eventually, I'm sure. Where we can bullshit about more. As we wrap it up here, so rapid fire, real quick here. I'm going to ask you to name the best or worst, you know, whatever that I'm asking about. So we'll start with the best. In your opinion, what is the best? Where can you get the best slice of pizza in Lindenhurst?
Roma Pizza.
Still?
Well, that's a tough call.
New owners back in the day. I agree.
It was the best for sure.
That was the move before waiting process practice, and I'm sure before every other band practice. Go with James and fucking hit up Roma before we come here.
Roma was so good. I don't know anyone's phone number, but I still know that number is 957-3800, man. I am ready to order some pizza right now.
So conversely, worst of the Hearst, where's the worst slice of pizza in Lindenhurst?
I always hated Stella's Pizza. And I know that might be controversial, but I always hated Stella's Pizza.
I would put Mr. G's on the bottom of the barrel for me there.
So I have such a love-hate relationship. After the shows at Dr. Shays,
right across the street, of course.
You get Mr. G's Pizza in Lindenhurst, and it was glorious.
Any particular reason you hated Stella's? Did the owner sexually harass a girl you knew like he did everyone else? Or
yeah, I mean, I've heard terrible, disgusting stories out of that place. But no,
you worked next door to it essentially for a long time.
I never liked the pizza. Just never liked the pizza. I think Gino's in North Lindenhurst by Alitalia would be like another really good pizza spot. I always liked.
Was not always there.
No.
Relatively new in the fact that it's been there for 17 years. maybe less than that, but because it was Crazy Owls before that, like a discount store. And there was another pizza place in that shopping center called Avanti years ago.
Oh yeah,
that was a sesame crust place that had a Street Fighter machine in the back because I lived in North Lindenhurst.
Yeah.
But this is before CVS there with CVS. And Little Venice was in that shopping center.
Yeah.
Along with Wellwood Video and wherever the fuck else was there.
Yeah. All right. So that's pizza. Hit me up with this next one.
Next, best and worst. Best hangout spot. To bring it back to silent majority. More situations and hangout spots. What is the best hangout spot? Would you say Dr. Shays it has to be for you?
Without a doubt. Sundays,
that's
Dr. Shays.
The CBs of Lindenhurst for your generation.
There was nothing like that, man. I mean, close second place because I'm a South Shore kid. You go to Venetian Shores at night and hang out in that parking lot.
So this is another thing I think we'll get to eventually with people, but I my experience is only in Lindenhurst, but there were like weird fucking places called like the Shoe and the Vetter, where it was like vacant industrial parking lots after night where kids would just hang out and fucking rage, or do whatever. So there were places like that as well. What would be the worst hangout spot in Lindenhurst? Or was it not a bad hangout spot if you and your friends were hanging out there?
So I would say the Shoe, because the Shoe was like my era was jock overrun, and I didn't really want to.
So for Claire, which was the Shoe? Because I knew there was the Shoe, the Sneaky Shoe, the Shoe 2.
Oh no! I was classic Shoe. You would follow the railroad tracks in North Lindenhurst all the way down.
Original recipe Shoe.
Yeah, like dead end circle in there, and like it was like a Friday night jock pulling, and I was like, nah, I don't need
fuck this.
Yeah, not for me.
All right, now moving on. Best Chinese food in Lindenhurst.
Still to this day, New Fortune Cookie. Next to the old medicine shop that's not there anymore, the pharmacy, the medicine shop, which is the first pharmacist I ever spoke to, Eric Lemkin.
So this is Sports Page parking lot, Riptides, whatever, Island Farms.
Yes. If you have not tried that Chinese food, it's the best Chinese food. You can only do takeout from there. They don't have a place to sit down.
And it's cash only, probably, like most of them
are. No, they are not cash only, but they make the best Chinese food around. And I they really do.
What would be the worst then?
Doc Lee Lao's. I'm so sorry. I know that a lot of people are gonna love that place.
It's just because you might have been able to drink underage there. You know, I think that's a lot of people's reference.
I was there underage, not drinking, but I did hang out there a couple of times while other people were underage drinking.
And for the sake of tact, I won't go with worst on this one. But what is the best band out of Lindenhurst?
The best band out of Lindenhurst? Impossible for me to say it. I mean, I'd have to. My heart would knee jerk would be Neglect, and that it would really have that. I mean, Mind Over Matter. That's a really tough question, man. It's a really tough question. But for me, the passion lied in Neglect for so many years. Like they got me through some hard times.
You have the
passion
tattoo.
Is one word for yeah. Vito didn't ask this, but he's been asking this the last couple episodes. If you had to describe Lindenhurst to someone that had never been here before, how would you describe this town?
I describe it as the armpit of Long Island. And I don't know, like, it really is. It's like, it's kind of gross, kind of like necessary. Like, it's just a spot. It's like the armpit. Like, even in my adult career now, I work with 2 people from Lindenhurst at my job currently now. Like,
Gotcha.
It's mind blown that this place is just like a central hub that stinks like an armpit in everybody here in Long Island.
The heart of it all has it all, right?
Yep.
All right. We'll end it there.